In this article, I would like to explain the early history of the Japanese dog, based on what Saito and other prominent figures in Japanese dog research have written. This text was written in the early 1900s, so there may be some differences from modern perceptions. In addition, the translation may be difficult to understand because it was done by a translator. We apologize. History of Dogs in Japan. Hiroshi Saito, founder, NIPPO Society. From the May 1937 issue of Shibainu. Dogs are one of the oldest domestic animals known to mankind, and in Japan, excavation of shell middens, which are the remains of Stone Age inhabitants, has revealed the skeletons of dogs kept by the people of that time, one after another. First of all, these dogs are not dogs made from local wolves, such as Japanese wolves, Hokkaido wolves, or Korean New Cutie, nor are they crossbred with these animals. Secondly, there were already several lines of dogs in North Korea as well as in Honshu at that time, ranging in size from very small to medium or medium small, and in shoulder height from about 33.33 centimeters to 51.51 centimeters. The size of these dogs ranged from very small to medium or medium small, and their shoulder height ranged from 33.33 centimeters to 51.51 centimeters. Hunting was one of the most important ways of life for most of the inhabitants of that era. Considering the large number of deer, boar, and other wild animal bones that have been excavated from shell mounds along with dog bones, it is likely that dogs were also used primarily for hunting. Of course, there are those that were carefully buried, and others that were broken into pieces and used for food, but this should be interpreted as the result of childish hunting methods of the time, when prey could not be taken for several days, and the dogs that were close at hand were sacrificed. This is the same phenomenon in the Stone Age in Europe and in Japan. Now, one thing that serves as a source for this Stone Age dog is a dog clay figurine. These small 3.03 centimeters 6.06 centimeters pieces, kneaded and fired in mud, are primitive in their technique, but they capture the characteristics of a dog's appearance. This indicates that dogs of the time had curly tails and erect ears. Judging from the above bones and clay figurines, dogs were already familiar, competent, and indispensable domestic animals for the inhabitants of that time. Moving forward in time, there are many dog-related documents from the Upper Period, until around 794, but here are a few representative examples. 1. Dog carving on earthenware used to worship a deity. Many of the sculptures depict hunting scenes, such as a master on horseback with a bow, followed by a dog wearing a collar, a dog chasing a wounded deer, and a dog cheering on its master as he wrestles with a bear. In the pictorial style, a large boar is surrounded by 5 dogs, with its master shooting an arrow from a short distance away. 3. Dog Haniwa, terracotta tomb figurine excavated from a burial mound in Gunma Prefecture. It has erect ears, a coiled tail, and a bell on its collar, indicating the owner's attachment to it, and the fact that a boar Haniwa was found in the same place suggests that it was a dog used for hunting. In recent years, dog bones have been found in the sarcophagi of ancient tombs, which may also indicate the extent of their master's affection and care. These materials correspond well with the descriptions of hunting and dogs in the records of the time, such as Kojiki, Nihonshoki, Shoku Nihongi, Manayoshu, Ingishiki, and each of the Fudoki, etc. The fact that the tax for men in those days was the so-called bow and arrow tax, which was used to hunt game, shows the active hunting and canine activities of the time. What is noteworthy from an animal and dog point of view is that in addition to the scroll tail, what is known today as the difference tail appears in this material from the Upper Period. All the materials before the Upper Dynasty had erect ears, but in the Kamakura period, 1192 to 1333, drooping ears appear for the first time. This can be seen in the picture scrolls that depict people's lives at that time. For example, the dog in the Kazanji picture scroll by monk Dentoba, which is said to be a policy of the late Fujiwara period, and the Shijizen Enji, Mound, Shiji, etc., has magnificent standing ears. The typical dog with drooping ears and a curly tail can be seen in works such as the Hiraten Emiki, an early Kamakura period work. Of course, in the Edo period, 1603 to 1867, so-called street dogs were often seen with drooping ears, but this is an issue that must be considered in the context of transportation to and from China, and by extension, in dogs. Returning to the story and examining the development of dog breeding after the Second Modern Period, it was about 1,600 years ago in the Nintoku Emperor's reign that the imperial court established a falconry department for hunting, and about 1. 400 years ago in the Seonka Emperor's reign that an Inuke department was established. There were very few records on dogs at that time, and even in the families of Lord Seonji and Viscount Machimiang, which have been handed down to the present day as the families of the Goyaka, there were almost no dog books handed down. We know only a little about the breeding and treatment methods of the time from other books, but at that time, there were hunting areas, or katano, forbidden to the emperor's hunting, and field guards were in charge of guarding them. According to records such as the fact that hunting parties were sent by imperial decree to patrol the country with hawks and dogs, it is thought that the method of dog breeding and training was making considerable progress. A study of samurai families reveals that the Ashikaga and Tokugawa shoguns left behind a considerable number of secret books, records, and illustrations of their dog breeders' families, which provide a general overview of their breeding and training methods. It is important to note at this point that many people generally believe that the era of the Inu-Kyubao public is the one in which dogs were happiest, and also that things related to dogs have progressed the most. The Shogun Tsuyoshi dog protection was a misguided form of animal welfare that stemmed from mere compassion for animals, i.e., he did not allow dogs, which were domesticated animals, to be used at all and even prohibited hunting. In the end, stray dogs filled the streets, and the shogunate was unable to control them. To think that it was even somewhat beneficial for the dog lord's institution. 1. The creation of specialized dog doctors and their role in the development of treatment methods. The Ketsu Ketayo, or the dog's family register, has survived to this day, revealing the dog's size, coat color, erect ears, drooping ears, and tail shape at that time. It is about the only thing that matters. It was not until after the ban on hunting was lifted that the death of the dog lord Inu-Kyubao developed in the manner of a domesticated dog. It is thought that the time around Yoshimune, who was a hunting enthusiast, was the peak of his career. To give an overview of the situation, the shogun's falconry offices were located in 3 locations: Zashigeya, Sendaji, and Fukage. The falconry room has an inubia, where the trainer is said to be the inuhiki, the assistant is said to be the daukansayau, and the person who governs them is said to be the inuhikigashira. First of all, there is the shape of the dog, or the shape of the dog, and the method of judging ability, wisdom, stupidity, and dullness based on the dog's coat color and other factors. The next step is to acclimate it to its new master, the method of feeding it to acclimate it, and the method of pulling it at night. This diet includes green pea powder and glacial sugar for special training, but in normal times it consists mainly of rice and chizukiri or kumano dried bonito flakes. Exercise and food consumption are also determined by the time of the day. For example, spring and fall will flow as follows: 7 a.m. Take him for a walk of 200-300 meters to defecate. Return home, give him water, and let him rest for a while. 8 o'clock a.m. Feeding. 10 a.m. Go out for long-distance towing, exercise, training, etc. The above alone is a way of spending time that is very much in keeping with modern times. Summer, for example, goes as follows: before sunrise finish exercise. During the day, tie him up in a cool, shady place, sprinkle water around him, and change the location of the tie-up from time to time. Evening, go out for exercise. At night, after the mosquito coil is lit in the kennel and the smoke is completely gone, we hang a mosquito net and place weights on all 4 sides, and tie the dog in the middle. It is prescribed to prevent mosquitoes as it is prescribed to take care of them at night in summer. In addition, careful attention is paid to the dishes, hair care, and replacing the straw mats. There are 2 training sites, one in Zashidani, 2000 tsubo, and the other in Zashidani, 2400 tsubo, with mountains, ponds, grassy areas, bamboo groves, and groves of trees for various training. Field training is attempted by staying overnight for a number of days and walking in the mountains and fields where there is a lot of prey. Each trainer had 1 or 2 dogs, and the trainers must have been very enthusiastic because their livelihood was guaranteed and they were rewarded directly if they showed their merit in front of the shoguns. The ropes could be as long as 2 take 5 shyaku, or as short as 1 take 2 shyaku 5 san, or as short as 7 sayaku 5 san, and the materials used to make the ropes were changed to cotton, tree bark, and other materials depending on the method of use. The whip used to discipline a dog and the whip used to teach things are called shini on the one hand and the teaching whip on the other. The length, thickness, and method of production are all made differently. Shinita, for example, is made of fine split bamboo wrapped in cloth so that even if it is strung, it makes only a loud sound and does not cause much pain. It is also stipulated that no more than 3 lashes can be given to train a single dog. Rather it is harmful, etc., as determined from deep experience. They were also trained to hunt birds, from small birds such as quails to larger birds such as pheasants, mountain birds, and geese, as well as waterfowl such as ducks, in collaboration with falcons. At times, the dogs were trained to move freely back and forth from side to side by silent hand signals from the dog's lead, just like modern finger marks. The use of the teaching whip was divided into 4 different ways of yin-yang, falsity and reality, and the 6 different ways of calling out to the dog, or what we would call today's vocal cords: hira, ho, katae, tei, hazo and mamori. The names of each part of the dog's body will also be defined, and 38 parts of the dog's body will have partial names. The ceremonies related to dogs were also regulated, and there were various ways of handing over and connecting dogs, such as kamizan tethering, shinzan tethering, kariya tethering, hanami tethering, and dragonfly tethering, and dogs were also distinguished according to their level of training, as follows: Shin-inu in training, Hira-inu that has been trained in one way or another, the best trained, and Gaho-inu. They are also distinguished by what the dog wears. Shin-inu, Hira-inu dark blue tug collar, Gaho-inu red leather with gilt metal fittings and golden hollyhock crest, silver bell and vermilion pull cord. Methods of treatment and diagnosis of illness and injury were also developed, including Chinese herbal medicines, moxibustion, and needles, and their prescriptions. Moxibustion sites and needle points have been documented in numerous records. The shogun's falconry was always conducted in the suburbs of Tokyo, but every few years a large deer and boar hunt was held in Kaganehara by Nikko. It was a large-scale exercise similar to today's large-scale training exercises, with the participation of all the shogunate officials, feudal lords, and even the minor guardians of Edo Castle. For this purpose, he asked around the Kanto area and Kai province for dogs famous for hunting wild boar and deer, and kept them in his dog room for further training. Kaganehara's hunting records also show the credit to the people as well as to the dogs, with each dog's name listed with its catch. The fact that dogs and falcons are still seen in the daimyo procession today, along with hawks and other dogs in tow, indicates that hunting was very active and that dogs were well developed. On the other hand, what was going on in the private sector was that hunters in the mountains were illiterate and uneducated, so few records remained. From generation to generation, the herbal form, breeding and training methods have been handed down through legends, and herbs, roots, and bark are also used for treatment methods. What is interesting here is that a book on dog breeding was released during the old shogunate period. For example, the book Inugu Yasukiden was published in Osaka. The book begins by explaining that dogs should be loved, then goes on to explain the normal methods of dog care and management, how to diagnose and treat sick dogs, and finally includes advertisements for 4 types of medicines to treat dog ailments. The fact that dog medicine was already being sold at that time is very interesting to us and tells us how many people loved dogs. Let me change the subject here and talk about imported dogs. About Chin. According to documents, a dog believed to be a Chin was introduced to Japan as a Shukinu or Chiseinu in tributes paid by the Balhae Kingdom or Silla dynasty 1200 to 1300 years ago. But these names were left out for a while, and it is thought that the dog was actively imported during the Tokugawa period. It is written that the Dutch brought Chin, etc. In ancient times, the word koinu was written as Chiseinu and changed to Chiainu, Chinu, and Chin. The short-haired, limp-thin, neat, sun-spotted dog that we call today's Japanese Terrier was also said to be a member of the Chin family. In those days, the Chin breeding book written by a Chin doctor who lived in Kajimachi in the old shogunate period describes the species, strains, origin, breeding, reproduction, and treatment of Chin in Japan. It is described that the Edo Chin was much smaller and much better balanced than the imported ones, i.e., those from Nagasaki and Kyo Osaka. By their breeding, when Sakai no Yuta no Kemi, the shogun's envoy to Kyoto in 1872, was accompanied by his beloved Pekingese when he went to Kyoto, he could not stay away from the Pekin. There remains a poem that goes something like this: Although I have always known that I have always known that I am a Pekingese. Although I have always known that I am a dog that eats dogs. I am envied by all the people of the world. In addition, there is a book written by Marquis Kuroda, a feudal lord of Fukuoka, titled Chinu no Kao, which describes in detail the ancient history and lineage of Japanese Chin, but it is rare to find a book written by a feudal lord about dogs. In addition, an archaeologist acquaintance of Mr. Sato's told him that when he was researching the past records of the lords of a certain temple in Tokyo last year, he found many commandment names with the characters for Chikusho, or Chiku and Ana, which made him wonder why they were so frequently found. This shows how much the feudal lords, their wives, and their wives loved Chin. About Karainu, it is the so-called Karainu of Kirainu Gonbei. The Teihiki, the oldest extant chronicle of Japan, describes a situation in which Hajo Takatoki sought a strong dog in exchange for taxes, and the city of Kamakura was filled with dogs that were dressed in brocade and were tired of fish and birds. To date, research has not turned up any references to it. It was not until around the Kicho period that records of Karainu began to appear widely, and it is written that Ieyasu and others hunted deer with 60 Chinese dogs at Futakayama in the 17th year of the Kicho period. Suruga Dainagan Tadanaga had a dog pulled ahead of the procession so that it would chase after the Gosama, and Kishu Yorinobu and others were also very fond of the dog. It is even recorded that many feudal lords followed his example and kept Karainu as if they were playing the role of feudal lords. The large Karainu, as depicted in paintings that remain today, was a short-haired, droopy-eared dog, and in rare cases, dogs of the Mongolian Greyhound type or the short-haired Mastiff. Like giant dogs imported from the southern barbarians were also called Karainu. These dogs were kept at the residences of feudal lords in Edo, present-day Tokyo, and traveled back and forth between Edo and the feudal domain on their round-trip journeys. These dogs, such as the large dog named Aoi that remained in Agan, a neighborhood near Dazaifu, Kyushu, until the early Meiji period, are clearly descended from this breed. The pictures of dogs in the book Fauna Japonica, Japanese Animals, published by Siebold, who came to Japan at the end of the Edo period, clearly show that hunting dogs have erect ears, while the large street dogs have many drooping ears. In addition to these, dogs were also used for military purposes, such as when Hadaraki, a retainer of Nida Yoshisada, a loyal retainer of the southern court, used his beloved dog Inu Shishi as a scout to win a series of battles, and when Oda Yoshinobu, a general in the Warring States period, kept 50 dogs each in his main castle and outlying castle and used them as messengers. It has been said that dogs are the target of bow and arrow attacks in Japan, and that they are not used for any good things, such as inuoimano, dog chasing, inubushi, dog slaughtering, and inubushi, dog warriors, etc. A closer examination reveals that the arrows used in the dog chasing ceremony were made with a soft paulownia wood rounded arrowhead, so that they would not hurt the dog even if they hit the target, and the rule was that the neck, head, limbs, and tail were not to be shot, never to kill the dog. In the old days, it was not allowed to kill dogs in the town, but only to pick up the corpses of those who had died of illness. The word dog is also often misused to mean next to the real thing, and is derived from the Buddhist theory of reincarnation, which states that the closest thing to a human being is a dog. The example of the dog of troubles was also used as an analogy for the attraction to a family member who had entered the seclusion of a priesthood because of the dog's refusal to leave its master. The above is a summary of the 3,000-year history of dogs in Japan. In short, my main point in explaining the history of dogs in Japan is to make up for the wrongs our ancestors have suffered to this day and to say that our people are superior to other people in the world in the field of dogs and have an honorable history. We are a superior people, even in dogs, compared to other people in the world. We believe that our relationship with customers begins after they bring a puppy home. Our motto is our foundation is family. We strive to be like family to our customers for a lifetime. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact us at the email address